All right, hello, good day. Welcome. This is the Disability Law Show. I am John Scholes. Beside me all the time, Samfiru, Tumarkin. You're both. It's Sivan right here. Sivan Tumarkin, co-founder of Samfiru Tumarkin LLP, the most positively reviewed law firm across this country, coast to coast. Doesn't matter if you're in Ontario, BC, Alberta, where they practice. They're right up at the top. You can search that, and I tell you it's true. 1-855-821-5900. That's the phone number anytime. Want to reach out to email? We'll get to a few of those over the next 30 minutes. help@disabilityrights.ca. And I know Sivan loves referring to mydisabilityquestions.com. Another place to ask questions, free and anonymous, and it's searchable, so your question may have been asked in the past. I love the topic for today, Sivan. 3 things to know about surveillance and LTD claims. This gives people so much stress and anxiety, but we're going to cover that here in just a bit, and some emails as well for sure. But the week that was, the case that's been on your desk lately, pal. What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely, John. Let me start off with an interesting call I had this week. I got contacted by a lady. It was on behalf of her father, who is 62 years old. He suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. He's originally from Afghanistan. He's an electrician. A couple of years ago, his wife here passed away from COVID. And so that triggered a lot of things for him. And, you know, he's been working here for over 20 years as an electrician. Never been off, never sick, nothing. But he suffers from, you know, serious psychological issues. Around last year or so, he was cut off by his LTD insurer because the LTD insurer said that they didn't believe that he continued to be disabled. And so, you know, he went to his psychiatrist, and his psychiatrist wrote a very powerful report. In my view, it was very powerful. And the insurance company did something which is quite unusual, which is they put him back on claim, okay? They put him back on claim. And so this is without our help, which is wow. Great. I love it when insurance companies actually do the right thing, which is not common in my experience. Anyways, fast track this to earlier this year. The insurance company, same adjuster, says, you know what, we think you are ready to go back to work. We've had some consultant look at your claim, didn't assess him, just looked at his claim, medical file. We think that you're ready for a gradual return to work. And so they told him, they gave him a deadline. They said, unless you try to go back to work by a certain date, we're going to cut off your benefits. And of course, what does he do? He tries to go back to work. Tries to go back to work, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, doesn't succeed. It's a complete mess. Okay, it's a catastrophe. His family doctor, his psychiatrist, they're all writing to the adjuster saying, no, this guy should not be working. He's not ready. He's getting treatment. He's not ready. The insurance company adjuster says, no, I disagree, and decides to just basically continue the cutoff, meaning they're not paying him anything. Meanwhile, he can't work. There's no money coming in. They don't know what to do. So this is a very unique situation in terms of the set of circumstances. No 2 cases are like, John, but a lot of people don't understand that when they do try to go back to work after being on LTD for a certain period of time, there is a grace period there. In other words, if you go back to work and you're unsuccessful in that attempt to go back to work, it doesn't mean that now you have no coverage for LTD. In fact, virtually every LTD policy I have ever seen contains what's called a recurrence clause. Typically, it says that if within 6 months of trying to go back to work, you're unsuccessful, and in fact, you're not ready to go back to work, you should be able to go back on LTD without waiting the elimination period, which is that period of time at the beginning of your LTD claim where, you know, you have to remain disabled, but you're not getting paid. It's usually several months of that period of time. In other words, you should get LTD immediately. And that's what should have happened to this gentleman here, especially when you look at the forcefulness of his family doctor's report and psychiatrist's report. And this is a case, one of those cases, John, that comes across my desk sometimes where I say to people, look, not only are you entitled to the benefits that you're calling me about, but I think there's a potential claim here for punitive damages to punish the insurance company, to punish them for this kind of conduct. I mean, to me, this is egregious conduct, high-handed conduct, as the courts like to characterize cases that attract punitive and aggravated damages. And so we're going to help this family, this poor individual here. But it's one of those cases, John, that your heart breaks for these people. And it's one of those cases which does happen quite a lot, where it's not the individual who's being victimized by the insurance company that contacts us. It's a concerned family member. And we hear from friends, from colleagues of individuals who need help. So many of our viewers, it may not be applicable to you, but maybe somebody you know who needs this help. Please put these individuals in touch with us. Again, costs nothing to speak to any member of our team about any questions you, your friend, your family members may have about their LTD case. And we'll do our best to help. That's what we do. That's what we do this show, free education. That's what we have websites where we have free information there. It's to try and even the playing field between these individuals and the insurance companies.
Okay, first question about this case, the fact that it was a mental illness, would that play a factor? Did that expedite the fact that the insurance company cut him off? Because we've talked about that in the past. It doesn't show up in X-ray. It's not a broken arm or a crushed skull. It's a mental illness. So the insurance companies, you got to go back to work. No,
it's a good question, John. And the reality is, that insurance companies historically have treated psychological claims, psychological illnesses, diseases with more skepticism, right. Where they claim that there's no objective medical findings. But if you think about it, when you have depression, when you have a phobia, you're not going to see that on an X-ray. You're not going to see that on an MRI unless there is a chemical imbalance or some kind of a damage to one of the lobes in your brain. It's psychological. And so arguably, that is actually even more debilitating than a broken arm. You may be able to do your job, our job here, with a broken arm. But if you're depressed, John, and you can't get out of bed, that's disabling. So yes, insurance companies oftentimes treat these claims very, very unfairly. In fact, disproportionately so, I think, than physical types of claims, where I believe that disproportionately psychological disabilities are actually more problematic for individuals, both from a functionality standpoint and a recovery standpoint, than physical injuries or diseases. So yes, but it doesn't matter for our purposes. We can help people whether it's a psychological issue or a physical one or a combination of them. As long as you're disabled from working and your doctors confirm that and they're treating you, we can go after the insurance company and force them to pay you.
Another quick question about this particular case. You mentioned it was reviewed, his file by a consultant. I mean, is that even going to hold water against his own medical team over the last 3 years?
Nope.
You didn't say doctor, you said consultant.
Nope.
I don't know what that is.
So insurance companies typically approach these kinds of cases in one of two ways when you're dealing with a review by an outside party, like a doctor, a consultant, whatever. They'll sometimes have you seen by one of their assessors. Again, it could be a doctor, it could be someone else. So they do an actual examination, whether it's physical, meaning that it's in person, or by Zoom or WebEx, whatever, you do the COVID. But the point is that they actually interact with you and then they review your file and provide an opinion. But in some instances, like it seems like with this individual here that I spoke to his daughter about, in that case, they didn't even do that. They simply hired this person. I actually still don't understand who that person is. I mean, this person is suffering from psychological, arguably psychiatric condition. And so who did you hire? I mean, did you hire what, a mechanic? Like, who did you hire to do this? You got to have the right person assess the file. More to the point, courts have said that they put very little weight on these kinds of assessments when they're just reviewing your file, as opposed to actually speaking with you, assessing you, whether it's in person or by Zoom. But insurance companies often do this. I used to work for insurance companies. I used to get into arguments with the adjusters I was working with about how to approach these things. But listen, many of these adjusters think that they know everything, and they don't. And it costs their overlords, the insurance companies, a lot of money, which is great for us, not so great for individuals who have to deal with these adjusters. Remember, these people who are coming to us, they're disabled. They're suffering. They have no money coming in. Yeah. Very, very unfair for the insurance companies to do this. But that's what we do here. We try to right that wrong.
Website you can use anytime, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. I know we usually use that for the Employment Law Show, but it's available as well for Sivan's clients. And why is that so key?
So all of our websites are important here. Pocket Employment Lawyer is a website that we've created a few years back, I think, at this point.
Yep.
Our focus at the firm, we don't do criminal law, we don't do real estate law, we don't do family law, we don't do immigration law. We do employment law and long-term disability law, or short-term disability, but disability law. And many individuals have issues with one or the other, either employment or with disability. And so when people have issues with their employment, often it's because of a disability, and often they have issues with their long-term disability insurance company. And so we created that website, Pocket Employment Lawyer, not just to deal with employment-related issues, but also with disability-related issues. And John, the reason why this website was created, which by the way is the first of its kind that we're aware of in the country, is because we know that some people just don't feel comfortable contacting a lawyer as their first move. They want to Google the answers. Well, the problem with Dr. Google is you often get the wrong answers.
Big time.
Or you get diverted to some kind of an American firm website, and American laws, US laws are not applicable to us. And so we created this website here that allows you to get quick, accurate, and free answers about your employment issues as well as your long-term disability issues. And if at that point you want to reach out to us to actually schedule a consultation, no problem, you can do that. If you don't, that's fine, but at least you got some answers.
Let's get a question in before we break. This one from mydisabilityquestions.com. As I mentioned off the top, that is a free and anonymous website for you to use anytime. This time it's Jeremiah. Says, I've been on LTD for a few years due to severe depression. After pressure from my insurance adjuster, I spoke to their recommended psychiatrist who suggested I begin medication. Am I obligated to follow this advice if it conflicts with treatments from my own doctor and therapist?
No. If your doctor is telling you to do something, you should follow whatever your doctor is prescribing. Now, as often law students are told to begin a law school exam answer, it depends. It depends. Look, if you are seen by an insurance company doctor and that doctor has ideas that may be suitable for you, you should definitely speak with your own doctors about those. But ultimately, we tell people, look, follow whatever your doctors are saying. Follow whatever their recommendations are. No judge is ever going to fault you for following your the treatment provider's recommendations. So if you have a family doctor that you've known for all these years, a psychiatrist, a pain doctor, whoever it is that's treating you, and they're telling you this is what you should be doing, that's what I would do. I would follow what they say, right? I would canvass with them any treatments, any medications that the doctors from the insurance company or any advisors from the insurance company are suggesting, but certainly I would not put those above the recommendations of my own doctors. But I will tell you, John, that we've seen cases where insurance companies have taken the position that because you're not listening to the recommendations or not following the recommendations of the doctors hired by the insurance company, and you prefer your own doctor's recommendations, we've seen insurance companies take the position, the ludicrous position in my view, that you are in breach of your policy obligations because every LTD policy contains a provision that states that you have to be engaged in reasonable treatments. And so what they'll say is by not following the recommendations of our own doctors, you are failing to in fact be engaged in reasonable treatments. And frankly, that's not the case if you are following the advice of your own doctor. So again, you have questions, you can reach out to us, we can talk about your situation. By the way, that's the other thing, John, I want to make sure people understand. We're talking in generalities here, but there are many nuances to every case.
Sure.
And this is why I tell people it doesn't cost anything to talk to us, to our team. If you are concerned about a specific threat or a specific request the insurance company is making of you, please reach out to us and we'll tell you what you need to do. We may want to see the correspondence, we may need to see the policy, but we'll tell you ultimately what you need to do, and it's not going to cost you anything to get this information. And
with that, we will take one short break, get right back to it. Things to know about surveillance and LTD. You're going to love this, so stick around for it. 1-855-821-5900, the number Sivan mentions, and email help@disabilityrights.ca as well. Stick around, we're coming right back.
People think you should go to the government to get severance pay. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Government can only help you get minimum severance, but not everything you're entitled to. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. If your long-term disability claim is denied, should you appeal?
appeals often fail because insurance companies control the process. So long as you appeal, you're playing by their rules.
You should never appeal the denial of your disability benefits. Appeals are just a mirage of false hope.
Don't. That's their process. Take it out of their hands and fight for your rights with our help.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed. People think their employer can make changes to their job. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Your employer can't change your pay, hours, or duties. You may be entitled to full severance pay. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca.
All right, welcome back, Disability Law Show. Good to have you with us every week. If you can manage that 30 minutes, you will learn tons on the show. You always do about the world of disability law and dealing with your disability insurer. Sivan Tumarkin is here. Reach out anytime, 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. Love getting into this topic. We're going to talk about surveillance as it pertains to LTD, what you need to know. First question is this, Sivan, or first statement anyway. Insurance companies are allowed and often do conduct surveillance, but there are limitations, yeah?
Yeah, that's a common question. By the way, again, the LTDFAQ.ca website contains a memo, very short one, but it answers the most frequently asked questions about surveillance that claimants have. Look, people get paranoid about this, and I completely understand why. I mean, can you imagine
being watched,
thinking that you're being watched? Yeah, you're seeing a car outside your house. I have colleagues who get calls from their clients who say, listen, there's been this car outside of my house for 2 months now. Let me assure you, the insurance company is not paying, most likely, I've never seen this, a company, a private investigator to follow you for 2 months straight. It is insanely expensive for them to do so. But in many cases, they will in fact hire private investigators. And when I used to do defense work early in my career, I would also, at the behest of the insurance companies I was working for, would order surveillance. Here's the thing though, there are limitations to what these private investigators can do. They cannot interact with you. They cannot go inside your home. They cannot do anything that crosses certain lines. The lines I just described, and there are other lines as well. They can look from afar. They can do video. They can do photos. They will, you know what they often do, John, and people sort of miss that. They will start with Google. They will Google you. They'll try and get as much as they can through Facebook, Instagram, whatever you're posting. So really, I would tell people, don't be so much worried about, you know, this guy or girl that you think is surveilling you with photos or videos. Be more concerned with what you've put out and are putting out on social media. Because the reality is that the insurance company is going to get a hold of that. They're going to use it against you, even if it's not really anything that's supposed to damage your credibility, meaning that you're still disabled. Maybe you posted, photos of a wedding you attended or something. They'll try and make it look like from those photos that maybe you're not disabled. You know, here you are, you're dancing and whatever. So my point is, insurance companies are allowed to conduct surveillance. Okay, they're allowed to do it, but there are limits. And if you think that there's surveillance on you and you think that certain lines have been crossed, you're uncomfortable, by all means, reach out to us and we'll tell you. We'll tell you if the insurance company did something wrong or not and how to deal with your adjuster when it comes to speaking about those issues.
Okay, second thing you need to know about surveillance is it often does not show what the insurers claim, which sucks for them, but don't panic, right? Don't panic.
Yeah, do not panic. Do not panic, absolutely. Look, I have had so many people contact me about insurance companies saying to them, we did surveillance, we caught you doing this, caught you doing that. You know, one of the more common things that I see, and by the way, when they say we caught you doing it, it's really gaslighting. Because when you're dealing with people, especially if you're dealing with a mental health issue, if they catch you taking a walk or walking your dog, if they catch you going for a swim because your doctor said that it's a good thing for you, that it's therapeutic, they didn't catch you doing anything. But they're going to make it look like, and they're going to make you feel like somehow you did something criminal or somehow you did something that crossed the line or you're lying. There's a lot of gaslighting that I see when it comes to surveillance, when insurance companies use that. Now, there are many cases where insurance companies have then, cut off individuals. And we're going to talk about that's the third point here. But my point to you is that don't panic about the fact that surveillance may happen. If you are legitimately disabled and your doctor supports you being off work, live your life. Be cognizant of the fact that, yes, there could be surveillance. It's not going to be day in and day out. It's not going to be 365 days a year. It's very expensive. But insurance companies do it. And they do it because, unfortunately, there is fraud out there.
Yeah.
There are people who should not be on LTD. It's that simple. So they are right in some situations. It's just that more often than not, I can tell you, they're not right. They're not right about what they draw from the surveillance, what they conclude, and certainly they're not right with respect to the actions that they take based on the surveillance they have.
It's interesting, though. It makes you wonder, though, before we get to your third point, that if an insurance company goes out and they pay for 12 hours of surveillance on somebody, and they cherry pick 5 minutes that they think is egregious, well, isn't that good for you guys? Because now you've got 11 hours and 55 minutes of, hey, he's not doing anything wrong.
You know, it's funny you mention that. Years back, I had a trial, and it was a personal injury trial. It wasn't a disability trial. And the defense had put up the surveillance in court before the judge. And we were there for several hours watching the surveillance. I mean, I felt bad for the judge. I thought he at least deserved some popcorn. I can tell you it was the most boring stuff. When the judgment came out, the judge specifically made reference to how useless the surveillance was because it showed nothing. But when I cross-examined the private investigator, one of the things one of the points that I made, to your point, John, is that really what we saw or what was presented to the court was a percent of sort of the amount of time frame where the surveillance was taken. My point is it's a skewed angle. And it's often very useless for the insurance companies, but it doesn't matter because they use it to gaslight claimants, to make claimants afraid, to make them more paranoid. And look, if I'm a claimant and I see that there's surveillance on me, I'm starting to think, is it even worth it? Maybe I should just walk away from all this. Who needs this aggravation? Yeah. And that's what they want you to do, to walk away from the money that's owed to you. You did nothing wrong if you're disabled. In fact, you're entitled to this stuff. So again, John, you're absolutely right. It's a snapshot in time, oftentimes cherry-picking information. Now, when we start a legal claim against the insurance company, they have to give us everything. They can't just cherry-pick, especially if they end up going to court, which, by the way, these things never go to court. But yeah, it's a snapshot in time, and oftentimes it's not utilized really for what it shows. It's utilized to, I think, intimidate individuals.
Yeah. And the third point about surveillance, you need to know, you touched on it already, Sivan, if your LTD benefits are cut off or denied because of surveillance, contact you guys immediately. Talk about your options. Right?
I don't know that I've ever had a case. I don't even know if there was ever a case in our office where a person was cut off because of surveillance, where when we got involved, we didn't force the insurance company to pay our clients money. So that tells you something. Look, again, even when I used to do defense work many years ago, I remember conducting surveillance. In the odd case, I actually caught somebody lying, and the insurance company was right to do it. But in long-term disability claims, I can tell you that in virtually every case I have ever seen when there was surveillance that was conducted, there was cherry-picking, there was gaslighting, it didn't show anything that the insurance company said it showed, and we forced the insurance company to pay. So if you're in that situation, don't simply walk away from money that potentially is owed to you without at least getting advice, free advice, about whether you have a case or not. And again, I'm just talking based on numbers. The vast majority of cases I have seen, virtually almost all of them, where a person was cut off or denied LTD because of surveillance, it was an incorrect cutoff by the insurance company, and we forced the insurance company to pay.
Lots more to go. We'll take a short break. We do a bunch of radio shows across the country. Sivan, of course, hosts them, and a bunch of his amazing team at the firm. We'll get to a phone call from one of those radio shows in just a bit. In the meantime, 1-855-821-5900 and help at disabilityrights.ca. We're coming right back with more.
People think contractors aren't owed severance. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Many contractors are actually employees and are entitled to full severance pay. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. How do you force insurance companies to pay long-term disability claims?
Insurance companies deny legitimate claims all the time. They're playing the odds. They know that most people are just going to walk away.
Your insurer may ignore you, they may even ignore your doctors, but they can't ignore us.
We know how insurance companies work. We know their weaknesses. We know how to use the legal process to force them to pay you what you're owed.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed. People think you are only owed 2 weeks' pay when you lose your job. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. You may be owed much more than 2 weeks per year. Don't settle for less. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca.
Okay, welcome back. We'll carry on. As mentioned, disabilityrights.ca. Go to that website, the firm website. There's a memo. Not a memo, at least there's a tab about media. And there you will find a radio station somewhere across the country, here in Ontario or Alberta, BC, that carries the Disability Law Show, the radio version, which Sivan and I and members of his team have been doing for years. It's an hour long. It's fantastic, so tune in for it. And we get a lot of great phone calls on this show as well. Sivan, I want to air one of those phone calls now, and we're going to talk about it for a bit.
I know a lot of the time people seeking these benefits are in a financial hardship to begin with. What does a person do if they find themselves in a position where they can't afford legal representation, as you highly encourage to seek punitive damages over insurance companies' failure to recognize that can't work? So can you explain that to me, please?
So it's a common question, John, that we get about what does it cost? Or what are the steps in doing these legal claims? Traditionally, the way lawyers are presented in the media, and again, historically, they charge by the hour. There's no way that individuals who are disabled, who have no income coming in because the insurance company has cut them off, can afford to pay a lawyer. It makes no sense. We work what's called a contingency, which is a percentage of whatever it is we can recover. It's no different than a real estate agent who sells your house,
right,
and they get a percentage of whatever it is that they can sell your house for. And the reality is that allows for what's called access to justice. It means people who have no money, and I've represented people who were homeless and were cut off long-term disability, and they were homeless because they were cut off long-term disability and they were evicted. So we represent individuals, and we're also selective in the kind of cases that we take on, not in terms of the money, but in terms of whether or not we believe in the case. That's a point, John, that is important to understand here, because there are firms out there that will literally sign up every single case. We don't operate that way. We are selective. We're selective in terms of who we want to represent. There is a reputational element there. And frankly, that's worked really well for our clients, because insurance companies understand that if we are backing a case, we're representing someone, it's because we believe in that case. Exactly. But no, you don't have to worry about any upfront fees whatsoever. If we are wrong in our analysis of your case, well, then you pay us nothing. At the end of the day, we've wasted a lot of time and probably expenses in advancing your case. But we're very careful. We know what we're doing. We've done this for a very long time. As to the point about punitive damages, John, again, when we look at a case, we look at everything. Some cases require us to really pursue punitive damages. And again, punitive damages, for anybody who doesn't know, it's when you want to punish the insurance company for high-handed conduct. There's a very high bar in Canada to get that. But, we claim that. In fact, we see quite a few cases that, in my view, are owed that. Typically, we settle these kind of cases with insurance companies. Very few cases actually go to court. But the reality is that there are many cases out there where it's horrible conduct by the insurance companies. But again, people out there should not be afraid, to contact us. First of all, it doesn't cost anything to talk to us. I keep saying that. Yeah. We still have people calling us and saying, I'll pay you for your hour. I've had people, John, that I've communicated with over a span of a year because they email me back and forth. And I give them the advice that I give them, and they insist on paying me. I say, we say on the radio and on TV, we're not going to charge you, and we're not going to charge you. It's just that simple. Sometimes the insurance company offers a settlement, right, and they say, here, we'll pay you to go to a lawyer to review it. Well, if the insurance company is going to pay us, by all means, we'll take their money. But we're not going to take it from you as an individual, not when you're in a predicament, you've been cut off, you have no money coming in, no way. We're going to give you the advice you need, and if you hire us, you're not paying anything. We only get paid if we end up recovering. And
I think that contingency thing just backs it up. That the fact that it's not a casting a wide net and taking everything on. That's good for the person who's coming to you as well. If they make it through the filter, they pass the sniff test, then they've got something to go on. You're absolutely right. And the other thing is that there are very rigorous regulations and ethics involved in that from the law societies that we deal with. And so we're making sure that we do everything by the book. So again, you have to understand, this is what we do. We do things by the book. Our goal is to help you to even that playing field with insurance companies and to make sure that you're treated correctly and that we enforce your rights. Again, the radio show, disabilityrights.ca, the memo tab for media. That's where you want to go to find a station that'll tune in every week for that. And we're done pretty much for this show. You want to reach out now that we are done, 1-855-821-5900. That's the phone number. Email help@disabilityrights.ca. And that website, again, free and anonymous, mydisabilityquestions.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back for another show. Lots more to learn at all times here on the Disability Law Show. Thanks. We'll catch you again later time.